EAGLES, Eagles.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome into a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here, back in our normal time slot. Johnny Mac from 8 to 10 a.m. this morning, covering the Philadelphia Eagles training camp, all up through the offseason, all through training camp, all through the football season. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Doing well. Trying to figure out why there's green by my headphones. That's a new one. But anyway, we'll try to fight through it.
Only one guarantee, John, is that something always fucking comes. I mean, we've been doing the show for 5 years. There's never been green appearing between your ears or between your head and your headphone, and now we got it. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. But other than that, back in the normal time slot. So that's something. Normal time slot.
Yeah, no doubt. Only one day this week in our normal time slot. We got two great guests planned, as always. We got Mike Gill and Lee Goutin coming up today. BLG's been at training camp, so we'll get kind of his takeaways of what he's seen live and in person. Mike Gill's obviously been covering it over at his station, so we'll talk to him a little bit about it as well. John, what's next from here, man? They're through 5 practices. They got the first preseason game is not that far away, John. August 7th. It's about a week away. 8 days away. It's next Thursday night. What's kind of the prep look like for that? And what's next in training camp as we kind of roll into, we're past the initial stages. You know what I mean? I think you start to learn a little bit more as you get into weeks 2, 3, and 4, or weeks 3, 4, and 5, I should say, of training camp. What's next for this team coming off of the first 5 practices they've had so far?
Yeah, you always have those little reboot days after you have a day off. Now, the Eagles are working today. They're going to have a walkthrough. So their next day off is Saturday. And then you might see some rebooting, so to speak, when they get back on the field Sunday. There's no preparation for preseason games. So, I mean, you're going to hear those questions, which drive me insane. There's none. I mean, literally none.
Do you think because they're a younger team, though, that more people could play this year? I was thinking about that. Like, a little bit more youth on the roster. Maybe they get some of those guys out there for preseason.
Yeah, I mean, certain guys are going to play. I mean, Vic is very focused on competitions, obviously, and they're going to play. But I just mean from the standpoint of preparation for the game. It's just like a practice against another team. You're going to run what you're going to run. And defensively, that's a little bit reactionary towards what the opponent is going to run. But what I'm saying is, in the regular season, you're game planning. So people see a game on the schedule and they say, oh, what are they doing to prepare for insert name? Nothing in the preseason. That's not what it's about. And there's certainly the Eagles are hyper focused on not. Nick Sirianni believes, whether you agree with him or not, one of the few advantages early in the season is that some of the tweaks and some of the changes and some of the evolution you don't show. And that's why they have these walkthroughs, because they like to hide stuff from us as well, because they don't want it leaking out. So from that standpoint, you're very vanilla when it comes to what you're showing. And yeah, it's just another opportunity, and it's a good opportunity to play against and judge yourself against another team, but nothing changes from a preparation standpoint. It's just training camp.
Right.
And you'll have a walkthrough and try to replicate. That might be the bigger part of an actual preseason game, is the logistics of a game day. The coach's communication, that kind of stuff. You can get a dry run through that, and that might be more important than anything going on the field. Going on the field, the reps are valuable. You're padded, it's live. You don't get that in training camp very often. And usually when the Eagles do, it's one third team period, third team against third team, because they don't want to get anybody hurt. So, that part's valuable, the live part of it. And yeah, I mean, corner, safety, linebacker. You have all these competitions, defense, edge rusher. Vic will want to see those players. So I think you're going to see plenty of defensive players play. Offensively, they're going to be more cautious because they're so entrenched. But still plenty to look at when it comes to backups and things like that.
Yep, no doubt. Looking forward to that. So that'll be next Thursday night. And rolling along here today, the Eagles have a walkthrough. So that is why we are in the morning slot. So John will not be down at the NovaCare today. And then we are back out there Thursday, Friday. So we will have a nightcap Birds 365s on Thursday and Friday. Johnny Mac, what's the weekend? Let me look at your email. I know you sent me the schedule. Let me make sure I know where we are on the schedule. Saturday, they are off, and then Sunday, they're back on the field. So a little bit of a different schedule this week. Saturday is the players' day off, and then probably makes sense because of the Thursday Eagles versus Bengals preseason game. So we'll have an interesting setup. But Saturday, players off. Sunday, they're back out there. Monday, Tuesday, back out there. Wednesday, walkthrough. Thursday game versus the Bengals. That's what the next week's schedule looks like. And then we'll cover that game for everybody as well here on JAKIB Sports. Johnny Mac, what changed when the pads came on at camp? I think we've gotten some good intel from camp so far just on who's where and who's progressing nicely to kind of get to the spot. There's definitely still some questions remaining. The pads came on yesterday, and I think that's when things get a little bit more real. How was the intensity of practice yesterday with the full pads and how that changed the dynamic of training camp?
Yeah, I mean, that's how you play football. So no matter what anybody says, and Cam Jurgens said what he said this week about 7-on-7s, and we've talked a lot about that. That's not how you play football. How you play football is 11-on-11 in pads. So that's more indicative of what's going on. Vic had thrown water on one-on-one draw. Everybody loves one-on-ones. I said yesterday. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves watching it. And Vic threw cold water on it and said, yeah, it doesn't factor much into my evaluation for that same reason. That's not how you play football. And, with all that space, Anaya Smith looks pretty good against Cooper DeJean. When it's condensed, he doesn't look too good against anybody.
Right.
So there's a lot of guys who, I always show you flag football is going to be in the Olympics in a couple of years. And, everybody's like, who in the NFL would be the best flag football players if they want to go play in the Olympics? And there's better flag football players to be on that team than guys in the NFL because it's a different sport. And they play it all the time. So, that's how you play professional football, 11-on-11 in pads. So, yeah, it's far, far more meaningful than anything that's been going on that predates the pads coming on for the first time.
Yep. Johnny Mac, I want to talk about the cornerback situation, and we'll see how that progresses, everything obviously with the pads coming on. But going to the cornerback conversation, Kelee Ringo, Adoree Jackson, other. Who's got the lead in the clubhouse right now, and who's going to be the starter in week one?
Yeah, I'm still in Kelee Ringo having the advantage, because they want him to be there. So you have that inside track. Doesn't mean you're going to finish it. And I think you saw from Vic's comments yesterday, I think a lot of other people were more hyped up by Adoree Jackson than Vic Fangio. So, and I think, the little indications about moving Kelee to the left side, getting Quinyon reps on the right side, you can see them trying to develop a well-rounded sort of cohesive core.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's going to win the job, although he has played better over the past couple of days. But I think it's a big advantage when you're the guy that they want to win the job. It's your job to lose. So
Doesn't Vic kind of change that a little bit though? You know, and like different coach, maybe I agree a little bit more, but I think with Vic here, if you can't play, I don't give a shit who wants you to be the starter. Vic will not put you as the starter, or I don't know, maybe I'm off base. What do you think?
Well, no, that's true, but Vic wants him to be the starter.
Yeah, right.
But if he doesn't earn it, he's not going to start. He's not to the point where I'm going to start him no matter what.
Right.
But no, this is not a how he drafted him, how he wants him. No, Vic wants him to be the starter. You saw the lukewarm words about Adoree Jackson. He wants him to be the starter. So he's got the inside track, similar to, I think, Makuba did coming into camp over Sidney Brown. The injury is going to affect that, and Sidney's playing better. So, I'm not as high on Makuba starting, even though Vic wants that, probably what Vic wants. But I am higher on Ringo starting because that has been closer. And you could argue that Ringo has been better. And I think highlighting by Vic's comments, Vic thinks he's been better. So I think he's got the advantage.
Yep, making progress there in the cornerback spot. We'll see how that progresses. I do wonder if Ringo is going to be, I know they want him to win it, but will he seize the job? Will he get it, own it, and then not need to be replaced? That's a bigger question and something that will unfold as the year begins. Johnny Mack moving to the safety. You just mentioned it a little bit. Sidney Brown having a good camp, John. That's at least what it seems to me. Everybody I've talked to, everybody I've read and heard has said Sidney's looked pretty good in camp, and then Makuba gets a little banged up. I mean, you mentioned it yesterday. I mentioned it on the morning show. That people didn't like hearing it from me, but 3 days of practice and you're hurt, and you want me to fucking expect you to play 20 games on a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and you're 185 pounds soaking wet? Yeah, I got some concern there, Johnny Mack. I think Sidney Brown might end up with that job, or maybe outside the locker room. I'll give you the same question there as I did on corner. Sidney, Makuba, or other, who has the slight lead in the clubhouse there?
Sidney, but it might be other down the road with Cooper DeJean. Depending on, again, you have all these moving parts. You have to figure out who's going to play in the slot. So, boy, I just get the feeling they want Cooper to be the safety, or Vic does. Long term, not short term, because this year he's going to be safety and base and slot. And then I'm sure they'll try to figure it out, just because I think he can have more of an impact on the game. I think they feel that way. But we'll see how it shakes out. Makuba, I mean, the fact that people don't like that you said that is silly. I mean, what is 3 practices in, he can't practice. And you've already seen some of the size deficiencies with, being matched up in the middle of the field with Dallas Goedert. So anybody who's insulting you for making that connection is silly. And obviously they just don't want to hear anything that isn't pie in the sky positive. He's, it behooves him to get back as quickly as possible. And it doesn't look like it's terribly serious. I mean, he's on the field watching. Again, if an injury is serious, they're not going to let the player watch. He's not going to be on the field. So I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing or anything of that nature. But as we saw last year with Cooper, the more time and Tyler Steen, more of a veteran, the more time you miss, the less likely you're gonna be a starter.
Exactly.
Certainly,
Vic clearly cares about these training camp reps for young guys, John.
Oh yeah, and that's on the offensive side. I mean, Tyler Steen hurt his ankle on the day 3 and missed 9 days or 10 days, and he lost the job. So Andrew Makuba got hurt on day 3. If he misses 9 or 10 days, he might lose the job. Now, long term, again, there's different.
You think it's 9 or 10 days, or do you think it's going to be quicker than that?
Well, I mean, I hate when people ask me injury questions.
Yeah, because you got no gauge.
I mean, there's just no way. I mean, players don't know because they're not doctors. You know, I remember when Britton Covey told us he broke his hand. He didn't. And I love Britton. You think you sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. But again, the indications of him being on the field watching is positive from the standpoint it's not terribly serious. But a sprained ankle is not terribly serious. And Tyler Steen lost the job over it.
Right.
So again, long term, who cares? Makuba is going to be here, and it's all about his development as a player long term. But short term, if you're worried about week 1, he better get on the field as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and the possibility obviously exists that maybe Cooper goes back to safety. We will see a lot of options there. We'll see how it develops. John, 5 days in, has your thoughts and your feelings on the edge rushing room, have they improved at all, or is that still the big glaring spot on this team that you think they do not have enough? What's your thoughts on that after 5 days of camp?
Yeah, to me, it's pretty glaring, especially when Nolan went down with a concussion and he wasn't practicing yesterday. And then you really see it up front and personal. One injury, and it doesn't look good. Now, Azeez Ojulari hasn't done much. Josh Uche been a little bit better. Patrick Johnson's just he's a good player to have. But he's not, you don't want him playing major snaps on the edge.
Right.
He's a nice role player who can do a bunch of different things. APR doesn't look like he's pushing for any meaningful playing time as a rookie, and nobody should expect a 6th-round pick to do that. I don't know why anybody would.
Does Uche look the best out of the guys after the top 2 and Nolan and Jalix?
Yeah, I would say so. But, again, part of that is he's gotten a little bit more of an opportunity. But Azeez hasn't done much on the second team either. Gets an occasional first team rep. And again, you have to factor in who they're going against. I mean, that factors into it as well. That might be the toughest practice day for any Eagles player, the edge rushers, going against Lane and Jordan. Yeah, you could argue the corners against AJ and Devontae. But that's a tough practice day, and they all get depressed. Even Nolan the other day, he's an upbeat guy. People talk about him being the replacement for Brandon Graham as far as the energy guy. He's an upbeat guy by nature. And he was like, I got 1% worse today. It's like you never hear that. Because he just, Lane shut him down. So you got to factor that in as well. Who are they practicing? Like Mora Jomos look like Alan Page. For old heads, that's a Hall of Famer.
It's a big comment right there. Moro Jomos had a good camp.
Yeah, but he's going against Tyler Steen.
Yeah, so it's hard to gauge.
So people have to look at the other side. So Nolan can't look like Deacon Jones because he's going against Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson. Jaylen Hunt can't look like, prime Khalil Mack because he's going against Jordan Mailata. You have to factor in that as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Johnny Mac, let's get to a super chat. We're going to get to Mike Gill in just a second here on Birds 365, a little Wednesday edition here on the show. 8 days out from the first preseason game, 36 days out from the Eagles opener versus the Dallas Cowboys. Nate the God checking in. What's up, Nate? J Mac Izzle. I say we play 4-3 when Kobe gets back. All of our best players would be on the field. I think our linebackers is the best group on the defense. I actually don't hate that suggestion. I just don't think Vic would do it.
Well, if you got a time machine, you can go back to the 1980s. He would. But as long as people play 11 personnel, you don't want to be with 3 linebackers on the field dealing with receivers in this league. It's not tenable. The defense is reactionary. If there's 3 receivers and everybody plays 11 personnel, Vic's just complaining about it. He can't get enough reps in the base defense in practice to see what Cooper DeJean can do at safety, because all the Eagles are in his 11. And the Eagles are in 11 less than anybody else, with the possible exception of Baltimore. Overall, everybody plays 11. And some teams spread it out even more than that. And I don't care how good your linebackers are. Linebackers can't cover running backs, right? Never mind receivers in this league. So unless you got that time machine, that ain't happening.
Yeah, no, not happening. Nate, appreciate the super chat, brother. I hear your thought process. You got a lot of good linebackers there. You want to get them on the field. Nakobe at the mic. You got 2 other guys next to him. But yeah, Johnny Mac is right. You're not going to do that when you got 3 receivers on the field. John, good stuff there. Good opening segment today, as we are now 5 days done and dusted in training camp, moving along. Eagles have a walkthrough practice today. Their off day this week will be Saturday, as I mentioned, and then the first preseason game is next Thursday versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Should be a good one. I think we're going to have a chance to at least see some of these players, because we got a much younger roster this year. So we will see who gets to play and who doesn't in the preseason game. Right now, we got Mike Gill in the green room. Let's get the Mike Gill joining us right here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show, and listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 The Fanatic in Philly on the weekends. Mike, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
I'm doing all right, boys. We are counting down the days to the first preseason game. Isn't it great to have football back? You want to see preseason football for one night only.
Yeah.
Exactly, Mike. One night. It's like actually kind of like a quarter. You know, you watch a quarter and then you're like, all right, let's get to the.
Well, it's like the act of it coming back. You work up, and as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, make me unsee this. Get me to the real thing. There's actually a game tomorrow night, the Hall of Fame game tomorrow night. Which
that's even worse, Mike. You check in, you're excited. Football's back, and 4 minutes in, you're like, oh, not really. This is not really.
No, I just heard Zander, you say that you think some players will play in the preseason. Any of substance at all?
Well, I just think, think about the team is so much younger. You know, like this is the youngest one of the youngest defenses in the league. I mean, the oldest defensive player, I think, is Zach Bond and Adoree Jackson. So it's like if you got all those guys that are below 26, I don't know. Does Moro Ojomo play? Does Makuba and Sidney both have a chance to play? Does Ringo play? Like, these are guys that I think could actually play significant snaps in the season.
That's actually an interesting proposition. Vic said about a month ago when he spoke, this was a couple, early in the process, but that some of these battles might actually unfold during the preseason games. Something we really haven't seen during the Sirianni era is, hey, we have position battles. Someone's going to win them in preseason football. We haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of that. So do we see Adoree Jackson, a veteran player, taking preseason snaps with Kelee Ringo? Do we see Makuba and Sidney Brown out there playing a half, series stuff? That will be kind of intriguing. Do Jahad Campbell, a guy who is coming off of an injury, to try to show him what the speed of the game.
How about Jaylen Hunt, second-year player, didn't really play a lot of snaps last year, and they're relying on him to be basically a star or close to a star edge rusher to hold down the edge for this team. I could see him playing in preseason a little bit, but We'll see. That's why I said it, though. I think there is a chance at least.
Well,
offense, I don't think any of them are. I don't think any of them on offense are going to play.
Jaylen Hunt is the presumed starter. The two guys behind him are veteran players, Uche and Ojolari. Are they going to have to schlep rock out there and play preseason snaps to try to earn their way onto this team? It's kind of a reverse scenario. You usually have the vulnerable veteran guy in there, and then the two young guys are rotating behind him to try to earn their way onto the team. It's the opposite way with that position right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt defensively you're going to see a bunch of guys play because A, Vic believes in it, and B, they do have legitimate competitions. Offensively, there's no competitions. So they're going to be very cautious with the offensive players, I would imagine, and that'd be more the traditional. Maybe they play a series, maybe they play 2 series, and that's it. Defensively, yeah, you're going to see those guys because Kelee Ringo's competing, Dory Jackson's competing. You mentioned Aziz and Josh. Hey, they might not make the team. They got to show they have something to offer. Sidney Brown, obviously, Jahad Campbell, health will play into that because he's on a rep count. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle Jahad. But he needs to play. Trotter needs to play, who I think has had a very good camp. So all those guys.
There's nobody that has established themselves enough to not play, right?
Well, Zach Bond has. Those guys.
No, I'm talking about of the battles that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson. You could say Adoree Jackson has enough of a resume to say, but apparently Vic never really even saw him and didn't care about him all that much.
Yeah, you heard Vic's comments yesterday.
I want to get your thoughts, and we're gonna have BLG later, and I want to get both your thoughts because, man, my antenna went up, Mike, on 2 occasions in that press conference. I don't know if you listened to the whole thing, but
I did.
The first part was when he talked about Cooper, and I was the one who asked the question, and I was asking, how's it going, playing safety and slot. And Vic said, I'd like to get him more reps at safety to test him more, but we haven't been able to work that out. And then the follow-up was, well, have you talked to Nick about it? And no. And I'm like, that's what practice is for. You can script stuff. Why can't you get a few more reps? So that was number one. I'm interested when Nick Sirianni talks again, I'm going to ask him that question, which won't be till next week. So I'm sure Bob Lang and company will prepare him by that point. But that was number one. Number 2 was Adoree. And what was the third one? There was a third one. You remember, Zander? There was a third. Oh, Howie. Howie's going to sign a player whether I what. Did you make – is that summer? Am I making too much of that? That's a lot. That's a lot in one press. I call them big bombs now.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that, the Adoree Jackson thing where he was like, I really didn't see him all that much. How he signs guys and then we just, get him here. Is that him saying, yeah, he signed this guy Hunt and then he gave him to me and Huff, and he wasn't any good. And Devin White he gave to me and he wasn't any good. So you can take it that way, I think, if you're putting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought was interesting, he didn't really have – so we got asked about Jackson. He gave that expository. He got asked about Ringo and wasn't like glowing about Ringo. He got asked about Mac McWilliams and certainly went on a longer, description of his thoughts. I think Mac McWilliams is a guy that it seems that Vic likes and is, definitely intrigued by. So he would be a guy. That was one of the things that did stand out yesterday is he's going on and on about this Mac McWilliams for the second time now. He's kind of like talked a lot about how smart he is and how much he's already kind of getting the system down. And that could be a sign that maybe he's frustrated with how, a guy like Ringo, maybe he's not picking it up as fast. And yet he's the one with all the tools. And yet here's this other guy who knows what he's doing. He's always in the proper spot. He didn't say like, hey, he did say he has a little ways to go and stuff, but I thought that also stood out. But you're right. Anytime Fangio speaks, it sounds like you're getting the truth serum.
Yeah, it's almost kind of shocking because it's so rare when you see that kind of stuff. Now, part of it is, I think, good natured. Vic likes to drop the one liners. He did it with the training staff when he was talking about Jahad Campbell the other day. So part of it's that, but there's a couple things in there when you're like, "Woo, this guy's feeling himself."
Now,
And
why?
well, he should, by the way.
Do you
the way
think
he
it's
performed.
strategically done that Petula doesn't have to speak like during the week? They keep kind of missing him because there's the off day, and then they don't have him talk until the weekend. And I would imagine on the weekend there's not as much maybe
No,
media.
I think the strategy is more to keep Nick limited. Because I believe Michael Clay is talking. I didn't.
Yeah, so Nick talks on Monday, Vic on Tuesday, Wednesday they're off. Clay talks on Thursday. Fridays they're generally not doing anything. So then Petula is not talking till the weekend when there's not the same routines of hearing I guess maybe they're trying to get him.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with not getting the extra. By putting Michael in there, that would be Nick's day. Well, that would be Kevin's day, and then Nick would be Saturday.
Right.
Because
no offense to Michael, I think most people would rather hear from Kevin than Michael during the week. While you're commuting, you listen to the Sports Bash. We air the press conferences of Vic and Nick, and if Kevin's was on, we probably would let the listeners in on that. Michael, no offense, we're not airing your press conference. I think
Michael, air it. Yeah, Michael's a good. Now Kevin's a good communicator. I don't think they worry about that at all. I think that's more to do with it's a way to extend Nick's downtime. Not that he's a bad communicator. It's just he's got a lot to do.
That Nick has gotten to the point of where he's like, I used to think this was kind of cool that I had to do this. Now I dread it.
I don't think he dreads it, but he doesn't. He'd prefer not to do it. I think that's every coach.
There are some people who are probably like, hey, this is kind of cool. People are asking me questions. I get to answer these questions. It's kind of neat. And then you're like, okay, I've done this, and it's not what I thought it was. Now I don't feel like doing it anymore because, yesterday, Monday, he gets asked a question. He said, I don't know who asked it. I think it was Jeff McClain, maybe. He says, I feel like you ask me the same question every year.
It was Jeff.
He's on the car wash of questions. He knows what's coming.
Yeah, it was Jeff on Jaylen Hunt's Jalen Hurts and running the football, which we have asked him every year. So, there's a lot of redundancy, but to Nick often says, and actually got it from Connor Barwin, the burden of leadership is repetition. You have to repeat certain questions to get it through. But from the standpoint of, it's not about hiding people, it's about just lessening the load, I think. And you do have to, work in Michael at some point. So they didn't do it week one. They did it week two. But I don't think it has anything to do. I think Kevin Petula, I don't know if he's going to be the best offensive coordinator, but as far as handling press conferences, he's number one by a mile in the Nick Sirianni era. So I don't think that's a problem at all.
And by the way, not that these things really matter a lot, but I do think people want some insight on the offense, what it might look like, what his thoughts are. There's not a lot of competition up here. We know Tyler Steen. It seems that they're not handling this the way they did. Now, Steen got hurt last year, which opened that whole can of worms up. If Steen never gets hurt last year, does Mekhi Becton get inserted in there and win that job? I don't know.
It's a good question. It's, probably not. Because, you can make an argument that Tyler has not been great this year, and he's taken every first team rep. Certainly Moro Ojomo, we were just talking about, his impactful camp has a lot to do. People need to pay more attention to the other side when guys are having big camps. And I brought up Nolan Smith. I don't know if you're listening by that point, Mike. there was the one day last week where he was kind of depressed, and he's a high energy guy. And he said he got 1% worse because he had a bad practice against Lane Johnson. Well, he's going against Lane Johnson. You know, Morrow looks like a bull in a china shop. He's going against Tyler Steen.
Now, yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, Tuesday was yesterday. I don't know what day it is half the time anymore. Fangio, wait a second. No, it was Monday. I think Jeff Mosher asked the question about the backup center. And I know that sounds like who the hell cares, but Landon Dickerson played center in the NFC Championship game. It seemed that Sirianni almost dismissed the fact that there was a backup center anything. Did you get that as well, that if they needed a center for 3 to 5 weeks, that Dickerson would move over and be the center, or is there someone else that would take that spot? And I ask that because obviously Juergens got hurt last year. He's coming back off of an injury, a back injury, which is something that not to sneeze about, and that they have enough guards that maybe they like that they would play someone else at left guard and move Dickerson over to center. That one caught my ear on Monday.
No, I think they're working to buy, and ultimately I think they want Drew Kendall to be the backup center. How quickly they get to that. But I do think there's a comfort of, you know, and I always joke that the Eagles have a Pro Bowl center and he's not even their best center. Because Landon Dickerson's a better center than Cam Juergens. That's how good he is. So they have that comfort of, well, if it doesn't work, then we can just move Landon. But I don't think they want to. If they could find somebody to handle the backup position well. And I think
because that goes into play with the right guard spot. I would imagine the loser of the right guard, you know, if it's even a battle, but whoever the backup there is, would be the swing guard and would be also the person that would play left guard in the situation that Dickerson moved over to center. So that's what makes, even though it looks like Steen will win that job, who the next guy is could be an important factor because, quite frankly, Steen played a pretty decent amount of reps last year playing for Becton at times. He had to go started a playoff game at left guard.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll be Matt Pryor, who can play.
Matt Pryor, okay.
Who can play 4 different positions.
Kenyon Green is not making any impact.
Not yet. You know, he was hurt, missed a couple practices to start. Hasn't played any on the right side, has played strictly left guard. So we'll see if it ramps up at some point. And maybe the injury had something to do with it. But even if you go back to the spring, I think a lot of people were focused on what that competition at right guard was going to look like. It turns out it wasn't a competition, but like Matt Pryor took every second team snap at right guard, and that continues. And now they're sort of, so on the second team, it's Matt Pryor's been the right guard. Darian Kennard's been the right tackle. Now they're flipping those guys during practice to get Pryor snaps at right tackle as a backup and Kennard snaps at right guard. To make him more versatile.
So what happens to all of the guys who got drafted last year, the Trevor Keegans of the world? Like, are they on thin ice because of the new draft class? Like, you keep them initially the first year, but then do they have to like earn their way on the second year? You can't keep them all, right?
Well, yeah, I think you have to earn your way on, but you can see positives with Keegan. They're giving him backup center reps, so they're trying to increase his versatility. So that indicates to me that they want to keep those guys. They want to keep Keegan. They want to keep Kennard. And to be a backup, you have to be versatile. So, excuse me. They're working with those guys to create that versatility. So it's a clear indication that Stoutland wants to keep working with them. With the rookies, you know, Stoutland happened to talk yesterday. You know, they love, and I mean love, the skill set of Miles Hinton. I've known that since the draft. But he's very raw. He's got to really up his technique and that kind of thing. Drew Kendall's going to be here as, you know, they like him as a long-term center prospect. And Cam Williams has not played well. He's the one guy who he's in trouble. Now, It's Howie, so he's not going to cut him, but he's the guy who might get the hangnail on the last week of training camp, and he goes to injured reserve, I would say. But they want to keep them all. They don't like cutting their draft picks. They do not like cutting.
Well, and that's why I wonder if you were a draft pick last year, are you on thin? Because they signed a bunch of veteran players. Now they can get rid of the veteran players. What do you keep? 8 offensive linemen? 9?
Oh, they might keep. They'll definitely keep 10. They might keep 11. Really? They might keep 11 because they have so many good offensive linemen that they want to work with, and that's their whole thing.
And I feel like the Eagles are in a situation where if they try to put an offensive lineman on the practice squad, if any team has half a brain, they try to take that guy. Hey, you work with the Eagles? Come over here. It's like if you were in Howie Roseman's front office. You just grab them and then say, hey, what do you know from Stoutland? Come on, give me the information. I want it.
Yeah, and that's what happened with Dylan McMahon last year. But, Keegan's the only guy, and they're, things are looking good for him.
Right.
Getting those center reps. They know he can play both guard positions. So the day 3 rookies this year, it's very unlikely, with the exception of Kendall, it's very unlikely that Hinton or Williams are going to be meaningful contributors this year, even if there were injuries. But they'll try to keep them around. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
So they're incredibly deep. They have 14 legitimate NFL offensive linemen on their roster. So they're going to have to cut some guys that could be on an NFL roster. But Mike, how many offensive line deficient teams there are in this league?
30.
And that more than anything else,
a lot.
Nobody talks about it because all the skill position players and all the great players the Eagles have, the number one strength of the Philadelphia Eagles year after year in this run has been the offensive line.
Well, it's funny because I'm 48 years old. Okay. So when I was growing up, it was really the end of the Jaworski to the Randall era. And
a lot different back then.
Their offensive line was an atrocity. They signed Ron Solt to just try to hey, we got a guy. And then he, broke his foot or got popped with steroids or something. And,
he was
they were just constantly trying to draft linemen, Bernard Williams, Antoine Davis. I mean, just Buscaroni. And then 1999 comes around. The drafting of Trey Thomas was the beginning of the change, because Randy Moss was on the board and was available. And I think at that time, people would say, you got to take Randy Moss. You end up taking Trey Thomas, and they signed John Runyon. And from that point forward, the Eagles' offensive line has really been among the best in football. So it goes back to that Trey Thomas drafting, when the shifting of the organization's mindset was obviously changing with Andy here. And it leads us up to 2025. 25 years later, they are still focusing on the offensive line, and other teams have not caught on.
Yeah.
Not caught on.
And, Chip Kelly's greatest impact on the Philadelphia Eagles was probably Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah. Jeff Stoutland, and they took Lane Johnson that first year when they had the 4th pick in the draft. Now, that year, I think three of the first 4, I think Deion Jordan was 3. But the first 2 picks were both busts, both left tackles, Eric Fisher and Luke Jokel. I don't know why I remember this stuff. Something's wrong with me. And then Deion Jordan, and then Lane Johnson. You got one guy.
I will say Chip badly wanted Deion Jordan. Badly.
Hey, guess what? He didn't get him. Someone else took him, and he went up with Lane Johnson. And that impact is still being felt in 2025.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Mike, 5 days.
By the way, Eric Fisher turned into a decent player not great, not even close. Lane's going to the Hall of Fame, but he wasn't a bust. He had a bad couple first and then turned into a pretty good player. But I digress. Yeah. Luke Jokel, bust. Yeah.
Bust.
Jokel, bust. Mike, 5 days into camp now. We've gotten some good updates from all the reporters who are down there. I know you talk to a bunch of them every single day on your show, 97.3 ESPN. What player has stuck out to you in a positive perspective, just from what you've heard? And then what player has stood out maybe in a negative perspective that's not quite doing what we wanted them to do in camp here through 5 days?
Well, I will say, every day at 4:00, we do football at 4, which Johnny Mack started with me years ago, and we still do that every day at 4:00. We talk football, and pretty much all the way through. Last week, every Friday, Sal Palantonio comes on the show, and every day at 4:00, we do football with different reporters. Every single person has mentioned Ajoma. Without fail, that guy's name has come up every single time. And as you kind of pointed out, well, he's going up against Tyler Steen. Could that have some effect to it? So Morrow's name keeps coming up in every single conversation that is out there in terms of the positive side of things. I think the other positive right now would be that Jahad Campbell was on the field. I don't know that anybody said, whoa, this guy, you can see why they liked him. But the fact that he's out there practicing, most of the conversation has been he's going to have a role from possibly week 1. And one of the things we discussed, John, I think you were on with me Sunday morning up in Philly on 97.5, is once Campbell gets on the field, I can't imagine, unless he absolutely is a bust, I don't know how you take him off the field. And I don't know what that means for Nakobe Dean moving forward here. So the Campbell story, him being on the field from the first day and being able to practice, puts him way ahead of the game where you thought he might be. And what that will mean for week 1 and what that might mean 7-8 weeks in when Nakobe Dean's ready to come back. I would imagine he'll be on the PUP list to start the year, so he'll miss at least first month, 4 weeks. And what does that mean for him? Where is he in the depth chart? Or, I mean, when Campbell's out on the field, you're hoping you don't have to take him off the field. You don't want to have a conversation of, oh, man, this was our first-round pick, and this guy's just not getting it done.
Right.
So that's going to be an interesting story. Now, on the other side of things, I don't know that anybody said, yeah, this guy's really struggled. But I guess the opposite side corner with Ringo and Jackson, they both have kind of taken – I don't know that anybody has really stood out in that spot. But what I have said – and I think, you keep an eye on Mac McWilliams. If they can find someone that they like to handle the slot spot, could they possibly use Cooper DeJean in another role on the outside as well? I don't know if they've even tried that yet, if they've been using him outside. I know, John, you said they want to get him more safety snaps, but have they even looked at him on the outside yet either to say, hey, you know what? We can go with Mitchell and DeJean on the outside because we have this guy that we really like in the slot.
Yeah, not yet. They did that in the spring. They had Cooper playing outside corner. But in training camp, it's been all safety in the base for Cooper. Vic did say eventually it will happen where he gets some outside.
I know he has said they would like to see, what that looks like. It hasn't happened yet. But I think if you get more and more Mac McWilliams practice and you start to be more and more intrigued, can I let the rope a little longer by moving you to the outside and see how he handles this? That would be something I would keep an eye on. But I think all eyes right now in terms of, I don't want to say negative, but where nothing has really been established would be at the corner, Ringo Jackson spot. Who's really grabbing that one? And I guess to some extent the safety spot too. Yesterday, Vic did make an interesting point of that Sidney Brown last year, he was out there and back, but he couldn't really, do what we're asking to do now. So he was never a factor in his return last year because people wondered when there was a safety situation, you kept seeing Tristan McCollum last year, not Sidney Brown. And now you're finding out why. He just was not really even an option for them when he returned.
If people listen to me, Mike, they would have known. I've said that a million times till I banged my head off the wall. The guy had a second surgery, wasn't healthy, but now I'm glad Vic confirmed it because, but Zander can tell you, I said that 1,100,000 times over.
Like, I'm a little concerned on Makuba, dude. 3 days ago. I mean, look, we're supposed to expect this guy to be a starter for 20 games in a year where this team has Super Bowl aspirations, and I think is legitimately in the conversation, not pie in the sky thinking. This guy lasted 3 days at camp. Am I supposed to really go into a season expecting that rookie player to play 20 games? I don't know. I got some concern on Makuba. Now, not long-term. I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about this season right here. Not 3 years, not 2 years, not 4 years, none of that stuff.
Well, and one of the things I think we discussed last week, the days are all running together now, but is whether or not he can run down the field with these bigger tight ends and the physicality of all that as well. That was one of the things. Hey, when you fall to the second round, there's a reason. He's a smaller guy at that position. I think there's definitely, I asked the same question, and I got people that listen to the show, and then they remember every little detail of things you say when it's different from what they say. And I said last year, look, I don't know what Nolan Smith is going to be. I mean, at this point, he had been coming off a year where he did nothing as a rookie. For half the season last year, Nolan Smith really was not remarkable. And then from November on, he was really, really good. You just said he was frustrated because he's going up against Lane Johnson. Well, the one concern that I expressed about Nolan Smith is his size. Can he hold up over 17 games playing at the level that he played that got everybody excited, right? I mean, he's a guy who is a smaller guy, which is why he falls down into the draft for some people. Can he hold up for 17 weeks, banging into these tackles, trying to get to the quarterback? He had an awesome run, but can you expect that for a 17-game run? Now, listen, no defensive edge rusher is for 17 weeks going to wreck games. I mean, there's a week where you did a great job, had a great game plan against that guy. But if teams are game planning for Nolan Smith because he's the best pass rusher you have, is he going to be able to be as impactful as he was during that playoff run? So that's another thing that, as John just kind of mentions, he was frustrated because he's going up against Lane Johnson. Well, guess what? A lot of tackles in this league teams are going to be looking, where is he at? I got to find this guy. Oh, there he is. He's the guy who's been getting to the quarterback. We got to figure out ways to stop him from doing that, because right now he's the main guy, as opposed to, you had Josh Sweat last year. You obviously have Jalen Carter in the middle. When Milton Williams on the field, you got to figure out where all these guys are. You take a couple of those pieces away, you go higher up the chart of, hey, where are you on the field?
Yeah, I agree. I brought that up a couple of times. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I think people are skipping way over that. Like, to your point, guys were worried about Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. That's who they're game planning for, not Nolan Smith.
Right.
And this year it's going to be completely different with Nolan, Jalix, and Morrow. It's still going to be Jalen Carter, obviously, number one. But then, they're going to pay a lot of attention to Nolan Smith and a lot of attention to either one or the two, probably, depending on who's playing better. Certainly, early in camp, it's been Morrow. And that, creates a bigger stress. If nobody's paying attention to you, it's like Jahan Dotson is a third receiver. Guy never sees a double team in his life. Well, when he was in Penn State, he saw it all the time. When he was in Washington as the 16th pick, he saw it all the time. Now he doesn't see it.
Right.
It's like Shangri-La. Well, that's like it was for Nolan Smith last season, and it will not be this season. So that is a very good point.
As we keep hearing about Jaylen Hunt, he has been obviously a guy who everybody's comparing to almost like he's Lawrence Taylor or something. But what I will say is, for whatever reason, the thought crossed my mind of, look, they found Jordan Mailata in the 7th round just because of his sheer freakish athletic size, strength, speed, and said, hey, let's just get him into our camp, see what we can do with him. Now, to take a guy in the 3rd, but I said, if this guy really is what everybody is discussing, what an unbelievable story that would be. A guy who probably, I don't know how many teams had him on their draft board in the 3rd round, but was essentially playing safety in the Ivy League 3 or 4 years ago, and is now being discussed as possibly a game-changing pass rusher. I mean, this would be the story of what the Eagles have on the offensive side of the ball now flipping over the defense. Not to quite the same extent with Australian Rails football and all that stuff, but just a guy with the impact that nobody would have predicted.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. But, we started this conversation with Vic bombs, as I like to call them now, when Vic Fangio says stuff at press conferences. When he was told about the comparisons for Jaylen Hunt, boy, you talk about throwing cold water. It was like, did you laugh? He asked us reporters, did you laugh? When the Micah comparison was brought up, and basically, he wasn't trying to insult his guy. He's saying that's not fair. So I do think there is this incredible hype, and it's going to be tough to live up to that expectation. But I think he's got a chance to be a good player. And people kind of forget, you bring up Jordan Mailata. Now, that is a whole different ballgame because Jordan Mailata had never put on a football helmet growing up in Australia playing rugby. So that was truly ground zero. And Stoutland talks about it all the time. The positive part of that was he didn't have a bunch of shitty coaching. He didn't have any bad habits. He didn't know how to play at all. So you could build him up from ground one. Jaylen Hunt is been playing football all his life. As you mentioned, he was a late bloomer from a physical standpoint, playing safety at Cornell, turns into an edge rusher, a little bit different, but I hear what you're saying as far as the developmental aspect of it.
Right. Well, the fact that you took a guy who essentially has no experience at that 1 year of Division I experience at the position you are now playing him at.
Yeah. That bad coaching and bad habits thing that Stoutland was talking about, that's a big deal. And I think that's what sets Jordan Mailata apart. The fact that you got this freak from an athletic standpoint, and just size, and you're not supposed to move like Jordan Mailata moves when you're that big and strong. And they didn't have to break any of the bad habits. I think that's a big part of his story.
Yeah, I agree, John.
Yeah.
I always wonder when they took Mailata, now his 6'8" frame and stuff would say left tackle, but his size, speed, and ability to run and move, I always said, I would love to have seen them play him at defensive tackle and just see if anybody could block him.
Yeah, he'd probably be good.
Now, the one problem with him being a defensive tackle is similar to
it's hard to get your hands low.
And Vic talked about, hey, he's 6'6", he's got to get down to 6'2", which means, but I think that Mailata could get the explosion to come up and just, it would almost be like a movie watching him just move people up and out of the way with Mailata.
Yeah. They made the right decision, though. If you're 6'8",
yeah, ultimately, what's more important, the left tackle or a defensive tackle in today's game?
Ooh, probably left tackle.
Yeah, they're both very important, but just from the
those are the two cornerstones of each side of the ball.
Yeah.
You see defensive tackles, change games now with the interior pressure, but obviously the left tackle has always kind of been the staple of, when you see people drafted number 1 overall, left tackles are in that conversation, probably more than a defensive
Yeah, we
tackle.
just mentioned one, Eric Fisher back in the day.
Yeah.
Just mentioned one.
Yep.
At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on the X platform and his YouTube page at Mike Gill Show as well. Hear him 97.3, the Sports Bash, ESPN South Jersey during the week. 97.5, the Fanatic on the weekends. The best in the biz as far as I'm concerned. Following the Super Bowl champions. Who's better, the Super Bowl champions or Mike Gill? Zander, who's better?
Mike Gill, baby. Are you kidding me? Comes in here every week, delivers the goods for Birds 365. It's a no-brainer.
I'll be in Wildwood today.
All right.
Wildwood today at Yuri's. We have the Lombardi Trophy with us. We are
again?
Every Wednesday Phillies day game. We're doing watch parties at Yuri's, and we're bringing the trophy with us, so you can come down.
When do the Phillies play today? Are they a day game?
Phillies play the White Sox 2:10 first pitch. So Our show will be live. The Phillies game will be live.
You're lucky. They've been showing off the Lombardi trophies at training camp. The fans can take pictures with them.
Yep. We have every Wednesday when the Phillies play a day game. So we have today and then 2 more in August. Next week, the 6th, and I think there's another one on the 20th. So you have a couple more chances, and then we have a couple more spots where we've been going with the trophy. And then, we're going to be into a football season where I'm out Mondays, Thursdays, all the time.
All right, we'll say hello to the glove guy again. He's busy. He's busier.
Yeah, that's who transports it everywhere, right? That guy?
The glove guy, right, exactly.
Yeah, glove guy. Good stuff. Mike, thanks for joining today, brother. We appreciate it, man. We'll catch up with you next week. Have a good show today for the watch party for the Phils.
All right, see you.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
There's Mike joining us here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Mike Gill here on the show. Appreciate Mike checking in today. We got a couple super chats we'll get to. Johnny Mack and then BLG coming up in a couple of minutes. I'm looking forward to talking to BLG too because he's been at practice. So we'll see if he had any different takeaways as compared to Johnny Mack. I don't think we talked to BLG last week, right? Because we had a Wednesday night show.
No, we had a Wednesday night show.
Yeah, that's right.
But he's been at every practice. So, yeah, I'm excited to hear his thoughts because I like to see it through the viewpoints of others as well. And BLG knows what he's doing. So he's somebody you can trust.
Yep, absolutely. Let's get to some super chats here. Buddy checks in. What's up, buddy? $5. Thank you, man. He says, J-Mac, is it more important for a QB to be elite in the regular season or the postseason? Hurts versus Herbert.
No, I don't want to go down the quarterback evaluation route. The most important thing, because again, football is not in a vacuum. You're not playing each other as quarterbacks. You're not playing with the same supporting cast. So the true greatness, and to me, the modern generation is defined by 2 different guys, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, is defined by week-to-week consistency. Week to week to week to week consistency. Playing at a high level in week 1, playing a high level in the Super Bowl, if you can, and that's not possible. But the more consistent greatness, those are the best quarterbacks.
Yeah, but there is still a premium on winning the big games now.
Of course, but there's 46 on game day, 47, depending on the year of the rule.
Right. No, I get
There's
that.
other
I'm
guys helping
wrong.
you. There's other guys helping you on the field. Nobody says any other position, oh, he won the Super Bowl. I bring it up all the time. Who were the 2 most dominant players on defense in the Super Bowl? Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. But I can say Myles Garrett, who's on a shitty team, is better than Josh Sweat, and everybody goes, yeah, of course, dummy. Why would you have to say that? I don't know. Why don't you gauge edge rushers the same as you do quarterbacks?
Well,
that's a question to ask yourself, not
but
me.
There is some gray area there. The quarterback's more important. Touches the ball every single play.
Yeah. All right. So it's the starting pitcher. I could say somebody throws it, an 8-inning shutout, the World Series. That might be more important than quarterback. Is he better than Sandy Koufax in his prime? Probably
no, but if you get
not.
6 runs in the first 2 innings, you're fucked.
But yeah, but consistent greatness. For some reason, people cannot take quarterback out and look at it in an objective fashion. I guess Tom Brady broke people. I don't know. But there are plenty of great quarterbacks who haven't won, Dan Marino being at the top of that list probably, and you can throw in all the middling quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl, and even certain guys who won 2, like Eli Manning and Jim Plunkett, notably. Anybody out there think they're better than Dan Marino? Because if you do, you don't know a damn thing about football.
I don't think anybody thinks they're better than Dan Marino. That's right. I think what you're saying makes some sense, but I do think there's another element that people add in, maybe more so than you add in, which is fine. Everybody's going to have a different evaluation, but they put a premium on showing up in the postseason. You know, we had Mike North on last week on the Cilio show, who's been, you know, talking sports for 40 years in Chicago. And you'd actually love some of his takes because holy shit, he eviscerated the Chicago Bears organization, the McCaskies, Ryan Poles. I mean, you name it. He eviscerated them all. But, you know, he gave a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts because he's like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing how great every quarterback is. And then they get to the playoffs and they don't fucking do shit. I mean, Lamar Jackson's got one of the best teams in football. He can't beat Mahomes in the postseason.
I can't. Do you think if Jalen Hurts was in fucking Chicago with that disaster of an organization, he'd have a Super Bowl?
Well, no.
Because he wouldn't. Do you think Jalen Hurts would have a Super Bowl in Carolina? Nor would anybody else.
No, but
From Tom Brady on down. It's not quarterback versus quarterback.
I know that, John, but there's
quarterback.
There's still, it still has to shift a little bit of your evaluation.
You're asking me about Mike North from Chicago bitching about the Chicago Bears.
No. I brought up Lamar. I just said he was a Chicago guy, but
then he
was talking about Lamar in the playoffs. He's not.
He's seen decades of bad quarterback play in Chicago, who haven't had a good quarterback since Sid freaking Luckman. And, you know, maybe you have Jim McMahon for a year, and even he's a manager, a game manager. It's been a quarterback shithole. And that's why, you know, you feel bad for a little bit in Caleb Williams. My God. I'm not picking on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a very good player. Very good player. Perfect fit for this team. The Eagles have built this thing perfectly for Jalen Hurts, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take advantage of the strengths of the players you have. But to sit there and act like football is played in a vacuum and act like Jalen Hurts is better than insert name of quarterback, whoever you want, and they don't even play each other. They're not even on the field. He wasn't playing against Patrick Mahomes. Does anybody want to say, and we're an Eagles show, so I'm sure there's plenty of people. On one day in February, Jalen Hurts was a hell of a lot better than Patrick Mahomes. Is he better as an overall quarterback? Probably not. In fact, there's 2 days in February where he was better because he was better in the Super Bowl they lost, in my opinion. But that doesn't make him a better quarterback over a long stretch of time than Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't. Also, football is one game. And the Eagles really fucking played well on one day.
Yeah, I still think there's a premium on those one games, but I get what you're saying. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just that. I agree with that. We'll see. Let's move on here. Jay Perfect checking in, member for 8 months. Thank you, brother, for being a member. He says, what is the biggest weakness with this roster out of all 22 positions? Is it safety, right guard, etc.? Jay, if you haven't been here all summer, I think you'll know. If you've been here at all this summer, you'll know where Johnny Mack is going here. John, your response to Jay, maybe he hasn't been here.
Well, it depends if you're talking about the starters, that's different than the overall position. But the overall position I'm most concerned about is edge rusher.
Yeah.
Even more so than safety. Because I think again, we talked about impact with quarterbacks, and it's a more impact. You need an edge rusher. You need a big pass. Part of the Eagles' success, not part of it, the vast majority of their success in the Super Bowl was their pass rush. That set up everything else, and everything else fell into place because of that. It's a very important part of this team's philosophy and identity and all that kind of stuff. So I'm most concerned about that position. If you're talking about individual players, who's the worst starter? It's going to be between Tyler Steen and Kelee Ringo and maybe Sidney Brown. And then it's just, I would think of that group, it's probably between You can make a case for any of them. It's all projection with Ringo and Brown. With Steen, I'm probably higher on those guys, but it's about the unknown than Steen. I've seen Steen play enough, but then you can make an argument for Steen and say, Jeff Stoutland believes in him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I can't sound the alarm on Steen yet, John, because I just believe in Jeff Stoutland at this point. I mean, you've read off his accolades yesterday. They're fucking insane. They're insane. He's going to have multiple Hall of Fame offensive linemen.
And he did the same thing with Isaac Seumalo back in the day. He struggled, and then all of a sudden, Isaac turned into a really good player.
Yeah.
So, but if you're asking me personally, I don't see it yet with Tyler. And I think Kelee certainly has a bigger upside, and even Sydney has a bigger upside. So, but that's uncertainty. Those guys haven't been able to show it. And, there's always a positive and there's always a negative. And the negative is they could shit the bed. So, but there's concerns at all those positions. Overall, though, the position I'm most concerned about is edge rusher.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jay, perfect. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. One more super chat here. We'll get to our break and get the BLG coming up. Prince checks in $10. Thank you, Prince. I'm sorry, J-Mac, but you have been off lately. The question is it important to be elite in regular season or postseason pressure moments when other players
You're off.
Now here's some big words.
You're off. I don't have to argue your premise because your premise is dumb. Why would I argue a dumb premise if you don't understand the evaluation of football players? I don't care what your premise is. That I'm not off. You just can't open your mind to what I'm saying because you have it in your mind that you want your favorite quarterback to be the best because he's won the Super Bowl. Your quarterback is very good. Is he the best quarterback in football? Not one personnel person in the NFL would say that. Even the Eagles, if they're being honest. Not one. Not one. Quarterbacks do not win Super Bowls by themselves. Nick Sirianni said that when he was defending Jalen Hurts. There is not a quarterback in the history of football that has won a Super Bowl without a good supporting cast. The flip side of that is there is not a quarterback in the history of football that can win with a bad supporting cast. I don't have to argue dumb premises. I don't accept your premise.
So how do you personally gauge Jalen Hurts, who's delivered 2 big games in the Super Bowls? I'm not pushing back. I'm just genuinely asking how you evaluate.
I've said it consistently. He's a very good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. He is not.
But do you put zero premium on performances in those types of games versus the performances from week in and week out in the regular season?
I don't. When you're great, when you're truly great, and you hit that consistent level, you're having good performances throughout the regular season as well. So it takes care of itself. When you reach the truly elite level, like I always say, well, over our longevity, consistency, it's Tom and Peyton. But I always say, the player that has played at his highest peak. No one has ever played the position better than Aaron Rodgers at his peak. When he was playing at his optimal level, nobody's ever played the position better. But then longevity comes into it, all of that. Peyton Manning, he's only got 2, and I always joke, in the second one, he had nothing to do with. He was at the end of his career. He wasn't even a good quarterback at that point. So how do you explain that? How do you explain that? The guy that great for all those years, the guy the Eagles are bringing in to talk to the leadership committee, the guy Jalen Hurts swears by, went to the Manning passing camp, very close to, as one of the, by all definitions, one of the greatest quarterbacks who've ever lived, no matter what you think of him, where you want to put him. How do you explain that? How do you explain that he won at the end of his career when he was not near, when he didn't win at the optimal level? Because other people are involved.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that. It's the ultimate team game. I agree with that. I think I happen to think it's a gray area. I think you're right, and I think Prince is right in a way too. I think it falls in the middle, to be honest with you. I think objective people like yourself maybe discount a little bit too much somebody having great success when the lights are the brightest and your team needs you to be the best. And then I think maybe fans like me and Prince probably put too much stock if they have won great Super Bowl and they do get that Super Bowl. I think it's a gray area. I think it falls in the middle.
Well, I don't think Eli Manning should be anywhere near the Hall of Fame. He's got 2. I don't think Jim Plunkett should be anywhere near the Hall of Fame. He's got 2.
Yeah, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is those guys.
No, I think Jalen Hurts
Manning's like a career 50-50 quarter. You know what I mean? Like I don't, and that's a team.
I don't. I'm just talking about because everybody's born like that. Now I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm talking about Super Bowl wins. You guys are the ones who moved the goalpost. Those guys won multiple Super Bowls because of great supporting cast. And, you know, to Eli's credit specifically, he played well in big time moments. He's probably the better example because he turned in to be very clutch in big time moments. And by the way, by no stretch, Jalen Hurts is a much better quarterback than Eli Manning. So please don't get that conflated. But he is a guy who was very inconsistent, good quarterback. I'm not trying to downplay him, was a good quarterback, but he was inconsistent, nowhere near it. No point in his career was he even near the top 5 in the quarterback rankings that are meaningless, but either way, nowhere near it. As you mentioned, 500 quarterback, but he had 2 great runs in the playoffs where he played very well and he played very big in big spots. That doesn't change my evaluation of him. He's an above average quarterback.
I think Jalen meant more to his team though than Eli did.
All right. Thank God BLG is here.
Let's get a few more supers. Prince, thank you, dude. You got it all fired up here today. All right, let me read one more. Jonathan says, "Don't worry, J-Mac. Some of us still think you're the Bob. Go Birds. Appreciate it." JD3 says, "Herbert stinks." That's pretty funny. Sasha says, "Knowing how Howie operates, if he were to make a move before the season opener, what would be the area you assume he would try to approve?"
Edge.
Edge. Yeet, there you go. And then Ty Banks. What's up, Ty? "What position battle is most interesting? Cornerback, safety, defensive end, right guard?" Probably cornerback.
There is no competition at right guard, so that's not interesting at all. Edge defender, there's no real competition because Ojulari and Uche are not competing for that first team, at least yet. So to me, the most intriguing is Brown against Makuba, because I think Sydney's not a fit, but I think he's a better player right now. So it's interesting to me how Vic will handle that. Will he pound the square peg because he wants that style of safety, or will he, say, all right, Sydney deserves it. Let me build the defense tweak the defense, not build it, tweak the defense to better take advantage of what he does best.
Good stuff there. Great stuff. Appreciate everybody for checking in today. Appreciate all the super chats. Don't forget to hit that like button, everybody. We got a good crowd in here today, as always. Appreciate all of you guys. Let's go to our main man, Brandon Lee Goutin from Bleeding Green Nation, joining us right here. BLG, you can follow him at Brandon Goutin on the X platform. BLG, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother? 5 days of camp done and dusted. We're moving right along.
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's always nice to have Eagles training camp to talk about.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
We got actual stuff. Padded practice also yesterday to talk about. And that was a hot one, BLG. Hotter for you. You're closer to the sun.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah. We just talked about some of the competitions, and we'll talk about that. But before I get to that, I wanted to run this by because there were a couple of interesting. I'm starting to call them big bombs in his press conferences yesterday. One was Adoree Jackson, who I think most of us said, he's doing pretty well, and a bit kind of threw cold water on that. And then when I asked him about Cooper DeJean, did you find that strange when Vic was saying, I asked him about, the dual role, and he was saying, well, I think it's going well, going fine, he said. To be honest, we haven't had enough snaps of him in it for him to judge. Our offense is primarily playing 11 personnel out there against us, so we haven't had a ton of base snaps up to this point. I'd like to see him get more and get tested. I don't know that he's ever been tested. Then the follow-up was, is that something you can coordinate with Nick Sirianni? And he said, yeah, and you're laughing. I mean, we'd like to be able to. Right now, we haven't been able. What does that mean? Isn't that what practice is for?
I mean, it's on brand for Vic Fangio, who's always at some point, and basically every press conference, is either outright saying or at least alluding to the fact that you like to practice more. So there's that. But it is funny at the same time because Vic was the one who was downplaying their usage of base defense back in the spring.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, that's true. And you're right about the fact that I didn't really correlate it to extra reps, and you're probably right about that because they don't practice enough. But I just thought, I don't know, because if you hear coaches talk about joint practices, and we'll have one with Cleveland coming up soon, all the coaches say they're better because you can script what you want to work on. And that's where I went. I'm like, why can't you just walk into Nick's office and say, hey, I need a few more base defense snaps. Can we script a period? That's kind of where I took it. Do you think that communication is going on?
Yeah, I think there's probably layers to all of that. And, as much as Vic Fangio is honest and probably speaks his mind and should get a lot of what he wants, given the performance, I think there's also, lanes you kind of have to stay in to some extent as it relates to, higher ups and how they view things. So
that's another thing he said with Howie. Sometimes Howie signs players and there's nothing I can do about it, basically.
Right.
That was
That was a good comment.
Yeah. So it was interesting. But anyway, so I plan to ask Nick that next time he's available. We'll see how it shakes out. Competitions, though, that's the main part of it. So we're through 5 practices. We got one fully padded practice, shells in one as well. But I don't see a lot of things clearing up on the defensive side of the ball. Is that how you've seen it early in this training camp?
Yeah, we're not really ready to call these battles here. Like even though I think Jahad Campbell will eventually overtake Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at linebacker, I don't think Trotter Jr. is going down without a fight. He's putting up a really well. He's playing really well.
I've heard that from everybody that he's played well.
It reminds me of Nakobe Dean from last year, just in terms of some of the recognition stuff and being especially good downhill. I just feel like every time he's just in the right position against a running play. And then even in the passing plays, some of them which he's lost in coverage, he's still in the right position. He might not be tall enough, might be not fast enough to finish and make the play, but he's never lost out there. And I think that's big, the mental part of the game for linebacker, especially. That's really big. So you look at that. You look at the fact that I don't think there's been a separator at cornerback yet. I still think that's a battle very much ongoing. Safety with Makuba missing practice time. Sidney Brown, stock is going up by default, but it's not necessarily Makuba versus Sidney Brown. It's them versus the field as well in terms of being able to, if they sign someone or if they, let's say they love Mac McWilliams and play him at slot and then move Cooper DeJean to full-time safety. There's different things that could still go on. I don't think it's, it's either Makuba or Brown as much as it's those guys versus, free agent or another option.
Yeah.
What about
good?
What about edge? Because I'm concerned about edge. I was concerned coming in about edge. I've seen nothing to alleviate that. In fact, more. Nolan Smith goes down with a concussion, and I'm like, whoa! All right, look at this thing now. Josh Uche is getting first team reps, mixing Patrick Johnson in.
Yeah,
Azeez Ojulari hasn't done much, hasn't stood out. How concerned are you with edge? Because I've kind of gotten a little bit more than alleviating those concerns.
Yeah, the depth there, right, is really what stands out. Like I'm excited and I'm intrigued by the upside of Nolan Smith, the upside of Jaylen Hunt. But when it comes to proven players in that department, and then you lose Brandon Graham, who's very much a proven commodity that you had there. It's just you don't know what you have. I think Ojulari to me has been a little bit underwhelming, or at least I'm more intrigued right now by Uche. He's coming off his best practice that he had on Tuesday. But again, it's one practice. You look at the track record; it's inconsistent. The high water mark is there, but you just don't really have anything you can kind of. The floor for that position is not. It doesn't look very high in terms of what you're able to just kind of hang your hat on there.
Yeah.
BLG, all right, what's your thoughts on Makuba right now? I was optimistic on the player, and I still am. I'm not counting him out, but I'm looking at micro. I'm looking at 1 year right now. I'm not looking at what his career can be 3-4 years. I'm looking at 1 year. You got rid of Gardner Johnson, and he was drafted to technically be the replacement. 3 practices deep, he's on the sideline. 20 weeks, guy's 185 pounds soaking wet. At least he looks like he is to me. What's your concern level or lack of concern on Andrew Makuba after 5 days of camp?
It really depends on how much practice time he misses here. Like if he's out these couple days and then he's back on the field tomorrow, let's say on Thursday, then that's not like, the biggest issue. It might just be a little bit of a blip on the radar there. Right. If he's missing, a whole week, maybe more, that's huge in terms of just Vic Fangio and trust. Right. And if he's not out there, he's not learning the defense, and he's a rookie, I just don't think Vic is going to trust him to play, and that's a big factor. So it really comes down to and I think he really needs to play in these preseason games. Like I think that's really important for him. If he's missing some time there, in addition to the practices, and maybe let's see the joint training camp practices against the Browns as well. That's all critical to me. We saw it last year with Cooper DeJean and how he missed a big portion of training camp and then was not really trusted to play until closer to October there. So if Makuba only misses a couple of days, he's back, no big deal. If he's missing, again, a lot more than that, then that really puts him behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, it'll be big to get back because, that first preseason game is coming. So he's got to get back quickly if he wants to play in that particular game. So something to keep an eye on. Offensively, Zander asked me this question yesterday, BLG, and I think it was kind of sloppy yesterday. The officials were there. There were penalties all over the place. I counted 5. I don't know, offensive penalties. I don't know how many you got. So it was kind of sloppy. But, I look at individual players and I say to myself, Jalen's having a good camp. Saquon looks great. Lane and Jordan are dominating. Landon looks dominating. Mm-hmm. Dallas Goedert's been good. Took a little bit of a step back. I thought that was a positive for the linebackers yesterday. But AJ's AJ. Devontae's been out, but he was great when he's out. Individually, everybody looks good, and I look at other people and they're saying, "Well, the offense doesn't look that good." Well, how do you match those two things up?
Kind of reminds me of just how it went last year in training camp, where I thought Jalen in 2024 got off to a pretty hot start there. They run a lot of tempo early in training camp last year, and I thought Jalen looked sharp. His best 2 days were early on. Kind of is how it matched this year. Where then he kind of took a little bit of a step back as the defense catches up a bit there. Some people think defense is ahead of offense earlier in camp. There's some of that going on, perhaps. And there's also, I think, a pride thing. As the offense comes out with a couple first days, the defense is like, hey, enough. Let's turn this thing around. Let's get the better of them. And then that can kind of, ebb and flow back and forth there. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we're going to see a night and day difference from this offense from last year, just based on what we're seeing so far. But it's also still so early that I don't know how much we can make out of 5 practices when it comes to the offense as a whole. As much as you said there, John, like you don't know what you have in the like the whole of the offense as much as you just feel good about the parts that are in the offense.
Yeah.
Taking a little bit of time maybe to get some cohesion, you know what I mean? Kind of building. Obviously, you mentioned all the individual players look good. BLG, what's your takeaway from your first view at Kevin Patullo in this new role? First camp, first approach, first press conference, all these different things you've seen. What have you seen from Patullo so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's impressive at the podium, I would say.
Yes, he is.
He just, and not even just in terms of like being entertaining or anything like that. That's not necessarily what matters. But I just think he looks like composed and like calm and in command. And I think that's something you probably want to see from someone in a leadership position like he is. I've said before that I think it's a little too like unfair to just say like the background of Kevin Patullo solely is that he's Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. Like he is, and he has been here, but that's not like his whole entire NFL career attached at the hip. You know, the way that even like someone like, you know, Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier like going from city to city together. Like I know Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni worked together in Indy, but Patullo also worked with Shane Gailey, as he's mentioned before that. So, you know, and he's just a different person. Like he might be really close with Nick Sirianni, but he's a different human being, and I'm sure he has his own ideas and preferences and philosophies that he can bring to this offense. So I'm intrigued by that. I still think, you know, again, there's a lot of, because of what they've done, that you're probably going to see carry over. And maybe he's not as much as the new ideas guy as is like why you bring in someone like passing game coordinator Parks Frazier, you know, who had just worked down in Miami and had previously had experience in Carolina and Indy as well. And then the quarterback's coach, what's his name? Scott
Leffler.
Yeah, Scott Leffler, who was coming out of, you know, Bowling Green in the college ranks. And, you know, I think the Eagles may, you know, are looking to maybe pull some ideas and tweaks from there as well. Because, you know, we all talk about the offensive coordinator, and obviously he is the one who ultimately like puts this together in a big way, has a big role in that. But all these position coaches bring their own specialties in terms of like third down, red zone that they bring to the table as well.
Saquon talk. Are you surprised how much he's been out there? How many touches he's gotten? Because I'm thinking back to last year, and good you're here as a sounding board. I don't remember that last year. Now he's touching the ball all over the place, and I'm going, what's going on here? I mean, they're not hitting, and I get that part of it, but I don't know. I thought we'd see bubble wrap Saquon. To me, it's more like AJ Saquon, where he's always out there. You know, the point AJ the other day was winded. It's tough to wind AJ Brown, but Danny Gray was hurt. Now Wade, Devontae was hurt, so you need extra reps. Why so much workload on Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I think that's a Saquon thing. I don't think he's the type to like rest on his laurels, to want to be perceived that way as like he's above everyone. I think he's conscious of something like that. And I just don't think that's his mindset. I think he's a grinder and he wants to grind. And obviously the Eagles have to be smart with that, because you don't want them to be taking a bunch of, you know, they're not tackling like you said, but they are still thudding, and, you know, he's getting contacted at times. So, you know, they have to be smart about that. But I think there's something there to, you know, if you want to be a leader on the team, like I imagine he does, and he seems to be when we're seeing him speak on the sideline, that, you know, you kind of have to go out there and grind, and you can't just be like, you know, DeMarco Murray here, who's resting, you know, with a fake injury or, you know, maybe a real injury, but kind of milking it a bit.
DeMarco Murray taking strays from BLD.
Yeah.
Now, I was just a little surprised by how much he's been working, but he's looked tremendous, by the way. He looks a lot better in camp this year than last year. And last year was pretty good.
Yep.
So I can't imagine this year being better than that, but he looks better in training camp, I think. So that's part of the offense I'm not as concerned with. To your point also, you know, the first 2 days being the best, I don't know if you saw JJ Watt's tweet, but I loved it because he said, "Look, you guys got to settle down." I think and I admitted, we evaluate it like it's a game, and sometimes they may be working on specific things, as JJ pointed out. Sometimes we're doing an all bull rush session, or all trying to play this particular coverage, trying to service the offense, or vice versa. In those first 2 days, the Eagles were working on a lot of underneath stuff, quick stuff out, basically layups, and you got the 95% completion percentage. And then it sort of evolves into, okay, now they're throwing it downfield more. So to me, it makes perfect sense. Well, you're not going to have 95% completion rates if you're throwing the football 20 yards down the field. How much of it is that versus just the choppiness of the defense, maybe bandying back and forth?
Yeah, I thought it was impressive that Hurts, going back to even, the 2 OTA practices and the 1 minicamp practice we saw in the first 2 practices of training camp. I mean, the ball was just rarely hitting the ground at all. Yeah. And I definitely think that regardless of, what they're working on there, like it's impressive. And it shows how Hurts has come a long way, because he wasn't doing that earlier in his career. Certainly the ball was hitting the ground a lot more than that. And now, it's obviously cooled off a bit here in more recent days. And like you said, as they're, going downfield a little bit more. So, naturally that's going to come back down from a very high clip that it was. So, I'm not really concerned about that. But I just think there's ebbs and flows to camp. Hurts has not had his best couple practices here. I'm sure he'll bounce back and have some really good ones here. It's kind of funny, of how much we almost can't learn about Jalen Hurts. I think the bar for him to clear in training camp is avoid Carson Wentz's 2020 disaster training camp, where he looked really bad, and that really, did not portend well for him that season. And I would say,
he's already reached that point.
Yeah, I would say Jalen Hurts has already reached that point.
Yeah, he's already reached that bar. Well, yesterday was a big red zone day, so also the field was condensed. And that's always very difficult, tight windows. I'll tell you, it looked to me, it looked a lot like last year. Ball wasn't necessarily coming out quickly, but when they ran the football inside, outside zone, it was tremendous. And the off schedule stuff, obviously, when it breaks down, and that's tough to judge in practice because they're going to blow the whistle early. But a couple times he's let loose. Their running game is really difficult to deal with in the red zone. Pass game, ball's not coming out on time, but is that just good coverage? What did you see?
I thought it was really a whole team failure from the offense in terms of there was penalties. There were times where Hurts held the ball too long. There were times where Hurts gets the ball to Nia Smith in the end zone, or he gets it to Dallas Goedert in the end zone against Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who in fairness had good coverage, but still there's plays to be made that could have been made and they weren't made. So I really don't think it was just about one player as much as the whole offense. For whatever reason, there's just kind of mistakes at every level, and they just were not clicking. And, that's something obviously you're trying to iron out over the course of training camp.
Good stuff there. BLG, anybody has stuck out to you at camp that maybe you didn't expect? I'm talking sleeper players. I'm talking back-end receivers. I'm talking some of those, other roster guys that maybe don't come top of mind when people think about this Eagles team. Who stuck out? And it could be good or bad, by the way.
Yeah, it's got to be Elijah Cooks.
Elijah, yeah.
It has to be.
It's always the big receiver. You guys, you tall guys, BLG. Yeah. Everybody loves the tall.
Oh, yeah.
He's been making great catches every day. Every day. I liked what Tanner McKee said about Elijah Cooks. Because Johnny Wilson, this is my problem with Johnny Wilson, who's even taller. As a receiver, not a blocker. Johnny's a great blocker. But as a receiver, he doesn't play up to his size. Elijah Cooks plays up to his size. That's what I've seen from Elijah Cooks.
100%. And, to that Johnny Wilson point, and I think this kind of goes together in terms of Johnny Wilson's been a stock down for me. And, maybe he makes the team because of his blocking ability, but I mean, he can't really separate it all on one-on-ones. And then you have that situation in the red zone earlier this week where
Mac McWilliams,
5'10", Mac McWilliams breaks up a pass for 6'6" Johnny Wilson. It's like that's got to be where he can do something. If he's not going to be able to separate, in the open field, going to have to be useful in the red zone. And that was just really, tough to see, I think, if you're a Johnny Wilson supporter. Whereas Elijah Cook's third practice in a row was making like a highlight grab. And it's not just like, oh, he's feasting or playing against lesser competition. I mean, some of this is against Adoree Jackson, at least in one-on-ones. And I just think, it's 3 practices in a row. And who knows, in the future, we could all say, oh, look, remember that guy, Elijah Cooks, who doesn't amount to anything. But at this current clip he's going at, if he continues on this track, I mean, this is, these are the fun parts of training camp where you see someone emerge unexpected. And, he's pushing for a roster spot if he continues to play this way.
And Terrace Marshall got banged up.
Yep.
So, I mean, if they're looking for that outside backup receiver.
Yep.
But here's the problem, BLG. They seem, I don't know who this is, but it might be Howie, it might be Nick. But they seem to want Ainias Smith and Johnny Wilson on this team. I
don't disagree, but it's just I don't see it with Ainias Smith. He's had some good moments in one-on-ones. I'll give him that.
He's great in one-on-ones, and then he gets in team drills, can't do anything.
And you know who that reminds me of? And I'm not saying they're the same exact player, but the same exact kind of description you would fit there is Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor had great moments in one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And then you see him in team drills, and he was invisible. So I don't the one-on-ones don't mean a lot to me if you're not also if you're winning one-on-one and you're doing team drills, then that shows me something. But I'm just not really seeing it with Ainias Smith. I don't know what his calling card is. I don't know what you point to with him.
Well, I think he's going to be the punt returner too.
And I don't think, at least, I haven't seen him so much do that in camp this year as much as I did last year, where he didn't look good at that last year. He did very uncomfortable. So I just I'm not seeing it with Ainias Smith.
I think it's funny because to your point about, I said that to Zander, to your point about one-on-ones, he's looked great against Cooper DeJean in one-on-ones. Sure. And then he gets the team drills. And then Vic happened to say, he was asked about, because everybody loves one-on-ones. Everybody loves offensive line, edge rushers. Everybody loves linebackers and running backs. Yesterday was great. That was my favorite part of practice yesterday. And Dave Zangaro asked Vic, how do you weigh those one-on-ones in the evaluation process versus the team reps? And Vic said, me personally, I don't weigh them a lot. So it's one of those things where Vic is throwing the water on it, but it's much more important to be good in team drills than one-on-ones. And Ainias is just, man, but if I were a betting man, BLG, I think he's going to be on this team.
I agree. And I don't think that's a merit thing.
Yeah. It's not always a meritocracy. Yeah. That's definitely true. But flip back to the defense, Adoree Jackson, because Vic also, I think a lot of us said, well, Adoree's playing a little bit better than Kelee Ringo early. Maybe that changed a little bit yesterday. And I think some of Kaylee's, was a little bit overblown because to me with Kelee Ringo, he's there in coverage for the most part. There was the one Terrace Marshall play where he got beat pretty significantly, but he's usually there in coverage and he doesn't make the play at the catch point. He doesn't locate the football, but the coverage isn't bad. And I think you can work with that as a guy getting beat all the time. At the same time, I thought Adoree was playing pretty well. And Vic had that weird answer yesterday. What'd you make of that?
I mean, I think it's just honest. I think, all of that in terms of, that wasn't like his guy. Doesn't mean it can't be who he goes with starting. If Adoree, if he has more confidence in Adoree, I think he's going to play him. I think we've seen Vic Fangio plays who he thinks is the best option to play out there. And it was a little weird, but he did at the same time, even though he said that, he did mention that Adoree had a very good practice on Monday. So he did give him credit as well. But, it could be the way of motivating him too. Maybe he thinks he needs to be pushed like that. It's hard to get into the head of Vic Fangio sometimes, but I do think, that battle is just very much to be determined.
August trades, how he's made four in a row. He's made 4 years in a row. He's made an August trade. If that holds up, does that add cornerback into the mix of safety? I think it's pretty obvious. Safety might be one. Edge rusher might be one for a trade, potential trade.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean cornerback could be in that conversation as well?
Say non-zero chance from a standpoint of, again, I don't think, just kind of like I said about safety with Andrew Makuba and Sidney Brown, we all come into training camp saying, well, it's either going to be this guy or this guy on the roster. Like, I don't think that's how the battles work. I think it's not just like, oh, someone wins the job by default and they have to go with that guy. They're competing against, the alternative option that could be out there. If they see an upgrade, I tend to think that, the cost and everything probably won't line up to where they would do that. And they would rather just go with what they have. But yeah, if no one's winning the job convincingly, I don't think they're just going to roll with that and be like, well, we just have to stick with this and we can't bring someone in.
All those positions. What about Tyler Steen? Has that surprised you?
Not surprised me. I do think they want to give him, this shot. And he's got to be the starting right guard based on all indications we see. The fact that no one's rotating in with the first team tells you he's going to get that chance. Does he hold on to that job over the course of the season? We don't know. We'll see. But he's going to get that first crack, it looks like, assuming, he stays healthy. And I know Moro Jomo, is having good practices here. I don't think that's just because Tyler Steen has struggled. I think it's because Moro's a good player, and we saw that, last year at times, certainly. And I think Steen is not perfect. I don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowler, but I think he's at least a starting capable offensive lineman in the NFL. And also, I think the mindset the Eagles fan mindset can kind of get twisted on that from a standpoint of you're used to having all pro and Pro Bowl linemen at every position, that sometimes you're just going to have a guy. There's plenty of teams out there who have an entire offensive line.
There's 30 of them.
Yeah, average players. So it's fine.
Yeah. Go ahead, Stan.
BLG, give me your biggest winner so far through 5 days and your biggest loser of camp so far.
Yeah, I'm going to put my biggest winner as Quinyon Mitchell, because I just think he looks great. And he obviously looked great last year.
How good is last year's draft shaping up, dude? If he can be Cooper, if Jalen can play in a meaningful role, Trotter is now looking good. I mean, that's looking like a really good draft.
Yeah, that's a foundational, kind of draft class. And it's a time where they need it too, because they're spending all this money. They need cheap, young, good talent, and it's here. Quinyon, I mean, obviously we saw what he did last year, but the fact that he's the only receiver that has a prayer of covering AJ Brown, that tells you a lot. And
he's making plays on the ball now.
Making plays on the ball. There's times where he's beating AJ, fair and square. And I think AJ would admit that. and I don't think AJ wants to admit that unless, it's true. So
I love his mentality, BLG. AJ's was it's my job to help the defense get ready. And Quinyon's it's also my job to make him better too. I just love the way he approaches the game, man.
Yeah, he is really, really good. Excited for him. I'll also honorable mention Dallas Goedert. I think he's looked really good.
He's been great.
I know he has to stay healthy. I get it. We all know that. But if he does, I think he could have a career year. I think he looks even better than I've seen him in the past. I think he looks really, really, really good. It just seems like every time the ball goes his way, something good is happening.
The one rep with Makuba earlier before he got hurt in the middle of the field, that's when I said to myself, oh, that doesn't look good with a big tight end.
Yeah.
But Dallas is really talented, to your point. Yeah.
And then stock down, my biggest stock down. I mean, you could go with Makuba because he's missing some time. We already talked about him a little bit. I'm going to go with someone who, it's not necessarily his fault. He's just hurt. It's Nakobe Dean. Where does Nakobe Dean fit into this team? Considering that you have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. looking good, and you have John Campbell probably going to outplay him even. So we don't know when Nakobe Dean's going to be back. We don't have the timeline. It's possible he misses at least the first 4 weeks of the season on the PUP list. And at that point, is he definitely ready for week 5? Maybe. We'll see. And if he is, how does he fit onto the field when if you have linebackers playing well ahead of him? And also, he's going into a contract year. This is a huge year for him. Like, it's just, it's a weird spot. And I feel bad for him because he obviously played so well last year, and that injury was really unfortunate. And even though he wasn't available for a big chunk of the playoffs, he was such an important player for this team last year. And ideally would be this long-term piece for them, but it's kind of not looking in the cards.
Yeah, I definitely don't like long-term. Short-term, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the path, BLG. He's healthy, and maybe week 5, week 6, whatever, when he's healthy. I think a lot of people don't realize Zach Bond's playing middle linebacker. I think Vic would prefer him to play weak side. I think the edge rushers are so bad. You get the sub package. Nakobe's playing middle linebacker. He's healthy. Zach goes back to his position where he can be the difference maker, and Jihad Campbell helps the pass rush as the sub package. Player. That's the only way I can see it working out. But but I think it could work out that way.
Yeah, I don't think that's completely unrealistic.
Right. I do think, I'm not saying like Nakobe Dean is, doomed. There's no way. And it's also possible he comes back at a time where those linebackers aren't playing well, and he takes the job back, and he's great. But it's complicated. It's more complicated than it is he gets healthy and he's definitely back.
And to your point, long term, I think this is the last year.
Right.
I don't see any way where unfortunately, because he was great. He was great last year. As is BLG. Does a great job. Make sure you check out bleedinggreennation.com and his practice notes every day. He's there watching everything and doing a heck of a job. He and the staff over there. Make sure you follow him on the X platform at Brandon Goutin, and we always appreciate it, BLG.
Absolutely.
BLG, thank you, brother. We'll catch you next week. All right, man.
See you guys.
All right, see you.
Thanks, man.
Great job. There's BLG. Been doing a great job covering camp up to this point. Good stuff there. Good takeaways, Johnny Mac. 2 guys that were in the room. Good to listen to you two kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I like to remove and just hear you guys because you're there and in person, and I'm not. So that was good stuff listening to BLG. Some good overall takeaways. We do have some more super chats we will get to today to close out the show. Appreciate everybody for being here. John, Buddy's trying to get under your skin, so I'm warning you now. Buddy says $10. Buddy, thanks, man. With all due respect, Big Mac, it doesn't make sense with Herbert. Is it not concerning all of his best games?
What is the obsession with Justin Herbert?
I'm not sure. Let me just read it. Let me finish it. Is it not concerning all of his best games are week 12 versus 2-10 teams, and his worst games are the one that mattered versus great teams?
Again, I'm not going to entertain faulty premises. You're telling me every Justin Herbert good game is against a 2-10 team? Look at Pro Football Reference. I don't know what to tell you guys. First of all, I don't get the obsession with Justin Herbert. Number one, he's a very good quarterback. I don't know why Eagles fans have decided to shit on Justin Herbert, but for a fan base that's supposed to be very intelligent and very understanding of football, insulting Justin Herbert is not the way to go. He's a damn good
I think people put him above Jalen Hurts this year, and fans had a problem with that because they haven't seen him deliver the goods.
Well, again, then go to somebody and go to the next list, because plenty of lists that I saw had Jalen Hurts above Justin Herbert. So if you don't like one list, go to the next list.
Well, let me ask you this about Herbert. And I agree with you. He is obviously a very talented quarterback. But how do you gauge the 2 playoff games where he actually was bad? I mean, the 2 playoff games, Johnny, had the 4-pick game. And then the other game, he had the 4 touchdown lead over the Jaguars, where Trevor Lawrence threw 4 picks in the first half. And then they come back and win the game down 4 touchdowns in the second half. So 2 games that, Justin Herbert just didn't perform when the moment required, a good performance from the quarterback. And I think people do look at that, whether they're right or wrong, John, and just say, I don't really care if you're a great regular season quarterback. If we get to the postseason, then this is what you do.
Well, I don't really care about people who don't understand evaluating football.
Well, how do you evaluate the 2 games?
Well, what you're looking at 2 games. Let's see. I don't know. I'm looking up Justin Herbert right now. He's played 79 professional games. He's played 42 college games. That's a lot of football.
Yeah.
And you guys are that's like I always say highlight scouting. People will go on Twitter and they'll see a highlight. Oh, this is great. So you're taking out of that sample size, you're taking out maybe, one of the worst performances, or maybe and again, if you blow a 4 touchdown, there's a lot of people involved.
I know.
A lot of freaking
know
people
that.
involved. There's a lot of people involved. Warren Moon, who's in the Hall of Fame, once gave up a 35, 3 lead, whatever it was. There's a lot of people involved when you give up that. You look at the Falcons collapsing in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Kyle Shanahan has as big a part of that as anybody else. The game was over if he just tempered his ego and kicked the field goal, ran the football a couple times, it takes a field goal, the game's over. There's a lot of people involved. It's a faulty premise. And you're taking one game out of that sample size and you're trying to argue with me. I'm not picking on you, but these fans. And A, I don't understand the Herbert stuff with the Eagles. Who gives a shit? But B, you're not showing off your intelligence of a fan if you're going to pick out bad quarterbacks and you start with Justin Herbert. That's just dumb. He's a damn good player.
Here's Buddy again.
And by the way, I went through this with Matthew Stafford on Detroit, who people would shit on for years and years and years. And I would tell him he's a damn good quarterback. And then he goes to Los Angeles in a better situation, better system, better coach, better supported cast. He wins the Super Bowl and everybody thinks he's great. And now he's descending. He's not the player who was in Detroit when he was losing a bunch of games. If you can't understand that, I can't help you. But Justin Herbert is not the guy people should be pointing to as evidence of a bad quarterback.
I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but I do think those two. I know it's only 2 games out of the 100 he's played, or whatever the heck, however many he played that you named. I do think you got to fucking perform in the postseason, John. I mean, a good team, bad team around you.
Well,
if you're a quarterback and your team gets to postseason football, man, you got to fucking play well. You got to.
I don't have the encyclopedic memory of the Los Angeles Chargers. I remember the game.
You shouldn't.
I remember the game. I remember the collapse, and it was bad. I know there were
pick one was a lot worse for Herbert.
I know there were other people involved in that bad play. I don't know. Ben Roethlisberger's got 2. Probably the worst game he ever played in the Super Bowl was in the Super Bowl, and he won it. And everybody forgets because, he won it, but he played like shit. They just happened to persevere and overcome it. And by no means, Ben Roethlisberger is a legit Hall of Fame quarterback. That's a great quarterback. You didn't play well in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes played like shit in the Super Bowl.
I know.
Twice.
And Jalen's best fucking game I've maybe ever seen. We lost the Super Bowl. I loved his quote this year about when I did it the way everybody wanted with all the stats and the accolades, I didn't get the win. So I'm done caring about what people want. It was a good quote by him. But he follows up. He says, Big Mac, it's a better look if you just admit you were wrong about Hurts. It's okay, bro. Ego check, my G. You were on record saying it was a bad pick, LMAO. Buddy's coming for blood today.
But Buddy's not coming for blood. I've said he's consistently a good quarterback. Buddy's just wants to be right, like every fan. Like you think you're dunking on me. You're the one talking about Justin Herbert being a bad quarterback. Go talk to somebody. Go talk to somebody in the NFL. Get a job covering the NFL. Try to find somebody who says, hey, Buddy, I agree with Buddy. Justin Herbert can't play quarterback. Go find that guy. Not the dunk you think, Buddy, but thanks for the $5.
Buddy, thanks for the super chat. Here's Vulnerable Vitality, lightening the mood a little. He says, a hardball question for John. Blondes or brunettes?
All of the above. I mean, I don't discriminate at all.
There you go. Good response. My beautiful woman is a blonde, so I'm going to take blonde today.
All of the above. There are, it could be anything. Everything works.
Good response. Final super chat of the day. Prince says, so much for elevating the conversation, J-Mac.
Oh, come on. The fact that you would say that is embarrassing. I mean, Prince, you listen every day. If you don't think you learn from this show, you're lying to yourself. And if you think you know more about evaluating football players than me, you're lying to yourself. So whether you want to be elevated or not, I'm dragging you along to be elevated.
Prince, you're hitched to the wagon whether you like it or not, my friend. Good response by Johnny Mac there. All right, John, your final thoughts. I'll let you get out of here before these people drive you to drink midday on a Wednesday.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. But I say from day one, look, if you got a faulty premise, I'm not arguing it. It's a waste of time. So, try a different avenue.
Good stuff.
And the weird Justin Herbert stuff, you're an Eagles fan. Don't worry about Justin Herbert. If you don't like one list that had him above Jalen Hurts, go to the next list that had him below Jalen Hurts, and then you're happy. I saw plenty of lists where he's ahead of Justin Herbert. So just find that list. They're both good quarterbacks.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Great show today, brother. We will catch you tomorrow in the morning for a brief segment before the day number 6 of practice, or open practice, I should continue to say, for the reporters. They obviously have other practices going on, or walkthroughs going on that the reporters are not at. So day 6 for open availability will be tomorrow. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. I'll catch you tomorrow, my friend.
All right, thanks all.
All right, thanks, J-Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Give him a follow on X at JF McMullen, and a great show today. Big thanks to Mike Gill. Big thanks to Brandon Lee Goutin, our 2 great guests today. Appreciate them checking in and giving us the rundown on today's show. A lot of good conversation today, everybody. A lot of good conversation today, all right? Boy, Buddy and Prince, you guys were vulnerable. Thank you. Thank you for coming in with a nice, lighthearted, giving John a chance. Oh, damn, I wish I read this, man. Prince says, J-Mac, it was my pleasure. Let's do it again tomorrow, LOL. Bring the Mickey Mouse voice. I love it. I love it. Pretty funny. A pretty funny show today. Whenever we get a funny show, whenever we get John fired up, it's always a good time. Buddy followed up again. Justin Herbert is a good QB. Who said he wasn't? Buddy, I didn't think you were that off base. Johnny Mac was shitting on you, but pretty good. Pretty good. I do love one thing I love about John is it doesn't matter what the fuck somebody says. He's got a response. It doesn't matter who it is or what they have to say. He's got a response. All right. Locked and loaded and ready to go. J-Mac is funny, man. Primo, I think J-Mac's better in the morning, man. He's too tired at night, man. He's too freaking tired at night. Primo, he was delivering the goods today. Yeah, he was refreshed today. You can tell. I think he got a good night's sleep last night, man. Good night's sleep last night for Johnny Mac. Yes, Flex. He's going to clap back. There's no doubt, man. There is no doubt. Valenci Bree, thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man. See, I think this is why I thought that one time. I'm like, I don't know if that means Brie, I get what you're going with that. Today's show is fire. Big Mike, thanks, bro. Thank you, bro. Kevin Savard says, today he was John fucking McMullen. That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. Buddy, I don't think Buddy's new, Vulnerable. I actually think Buddy's been here for a little bit. All right. Deshae, what's up, Deshae, James? Good to see you, my friend. Callie Baby's in here. What up, Callie? Callie, boy, if Cooper DeSheen drops back to safety, I owe you a fucking apology. Callie, baby, if they move Cooper to safety full time, I owe you, my friend, an apology. All right? Although I still think he can play outside. But shit, if Vic doesn't want him outside, I'm going to have to give you the win. Callie, I'd have to give you the win. Philly to Chicago. What's up, my boy? Good to see you back in here. I love the great people of JAKIB Nation. They're trickling back in for the season. I'm ready for another great year. I'm ready for another great year. That's for damn sure, man. That's for damn sure. Philly Don checking in. What's up, Philly Don? Another morning of great content. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Don. Hope you're doing good, brother. Hope you're doing good. All right. Twiz, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Leave it to Twiz to come up with some dumb shit. McMuffin needs to stop. I don't know what you mean, Twiz. Mrs. AM, was it raging J-Mac today? There was a little bit of rage in there, Kimberly. Prince says, I definitely got the first half, Xander. Prince, I thought you clapped pretty good today, Prince. I had no issue with your takes today, Prince. All right. My problem is that this is my problem, because I understand where John comes from, where it's like you got to evaluate the whole body, and it's not just a game and a Super Bowl. I get that. All right. I understand that. And the Hostetler and the Eli Manning points make the most sense when it comes to it. But like, at what point do you dock a quarterback who doesn't perform in the postseason over and over? Like, that's where at what point do you dock that? Because our guy, Jalen Hurts, while admittedly he doesn't play every game, he doesn't have a great game every single game. No quarterback does. But shit, the two best games I ever seen him play were the two Super Bowls. Like, is there no credit for that because it's a team game? Is there zero credit for that? I don't know. I can't view it like that. I just can't. I can't. If you tell me anything you do in life, it could be whatever job you have. The biggest day on the job. If you're a lawyer, you got the big day in court. If you're a doctor, you got the surgery. Like, if you don't perform in those moments, doesn't that say something about how good you are at the job? Versus if you do perform exceptionally well in those moments, doesn't that also say something about how good you are? I know it's not the perfect example or the perfect comp, but I don't know. I have a little bit of a hard time just completely dismissing that. It's a team game. There's 80 games. All right, but those games are the most important games. I don't know. That's why I said I fall in the middle. Twiz is like, politician Xander. I'm like, okay, Twiz. Fucking Twiz. This guy Twizzler's on a historic run of shitty ass fucking takes. Come on, Twiz. Twiz, wake up and smell the roses, Twiz. Moot, Twiz. It'd be moot, not mute. Moot. Sound it out with me, Twiz. Moot point. M-O-O-T, Twizzler. M-O-O-T, Twizzler. Now I'm taking you to English class, motherfucker. All right? Good night. Here we go. Let's get to some more supers. Jimbo. What up, Jimbo? Member for 1 month. Look at that. Thanks, man. New member. Appreciate it. Are you new to the channel, Jimbo? I feel like I recognize you. You got to be here longer than 1 month. Or are you just a new member? How long you been here, Jimbo? He says, Big Z, great show as always. Do you think we'll ever get a chance to see the Kelee Green away whites on the field? They would look so good. Dude, I love those Kelee Green whites. Not everybody likes them. Not everybody likes them, Jimbo. I think that's actually kind of a debated uniform. I love those Kelee Green whites with the green letters. Oh, man, I love them. I love them, Jimbo. Look at fucking Twizzler. Is that the best you got, Twiz? That's the best you got, Twizzler? Holy shit. Holy shit. That's the best you have. Twiz, I've been reading your comments for 5 years on JAKIB. I know you're made for more than that. Nerd with a dumbass emoji. Come on, man. Look at Prince, not in English class. You know what he meant, Xander. Stop it. Yo, Prince, shut the fuck up. Fucking Prince. You knew what he meant. Zay, you going to have Farzi on afternoon more? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. As a guest? I don't think he's going to be on every day, but Sills will put him on when he wants to put him on. I think the misconception with Farzi show is we don't own Farzi show. JAKIB has I really have nothing to do with Farzi show, actually. We just did a deal with him where he syndicates it on our platform. So I don't really own his show. He can air that show whenever he wants. He airs it in the morning. That's when he likes to do it. That's when he's done it for years. I don't own the morning show. And then he comes on whenever he wants as a guest. So he's not a JAKIB contractor. Not anymore, at least. He used to be when he was on the postgame show. And then he dipped. Trenton Wright. What's up, Trenton? Good to see you, brother. He says, Howie, Roseman, Sirianni, Fangio, Hurts, fantastic 4. That's a good 4. Can you make it a 5 and add in Lurie? Because Lurie's been a pretty damn good owner, man. Lurie, I mean, you got to give Lurie some credit right now. This guy, he's really operating at a high level. Yeah, Flex, that's true. Farzy lost me how he did us at the parade. That's true, Flex. I kind of forgot about that, Flex. I shouldn't have. Yeah. I might have to roast him for that, Flex. I used to see Farzy a lot when he worked with us in the on the postgame show. You know, so I don't see him ever. I mean, other than when he's on the show, I don't see him or talk to him ever. But maybe I'll have to roast him for that. Flex, you're right, dude. You're right, Flex. Listen, I respect that about you, Flex. You got to stand on business. All right. When people show you who they are, what do they say? Believe them, right? You got to believe them. Prince says, I got to do that shit to Sills. Sound it out with me. Yeah, Prince, I don't need to be sound. I don't need it to be sounded out, all right? That is funny. We've had some good content this week since camp has started, man. It's been good. Where'd my boy Twiz go? Is he still in here? Did Twiz run away? There he is. There's Twiz. Yeah, so for those who didn't know, Farzy was at the parade, and we had the big truck, right? Like, we got this big truck for the parade, which is a very tough swing. Like, you got to know some people to get a flatbed truck up next to City Hall on the middle of an Eagles parade when 2 million people are present. You got to have some strings to pull, all right? So we got this huge truck that's red, so everybody can see it. It's the most visible thing in the area, Flex. It had to be, right? I mean, if you couldn't miss it. It was sticking out like an eyesore, you know? Big JAKIB sign on it, hanging off of it. And Farzad is like standing right next to it all day. Doesn't come over, didn't say hi, didn't do anything. Didn't even do. And then he does a video panning the parade, and he films a video of everybody, and he stops it right before he gets to the JAKIB parade float. I was like, man, Farzy, that's some bullshit. Yeah, Flex, you couldn't miss us, bro. You could not miss us there. That was a hell of a setup, Flex. Flex, was that thing banging or what, dude? That was such a good day. That was such a fun day. That was a fun day. Any other comments I should take today? Did I get all my super chats today? Big thanks to everybody, by the way, for the super chats today. You guys showed up, showed out. I appreciate that. Last 2 days of July, man. I need some supers, some members. I need everybody to show out these last couple days because July's a slow one, you know? So it's been good. That truck was dope. Primo, it was cool, man. It was a cool day. It really was. Same, but Rich, if we win it, man, I'm going back. Same thing, Rich. I hope to see you there, Rich. We had a lot of great people show out, man. We had Callie Baby was there. Mike Berghorst was there. Arthur Humler, Flex was there. Joe Whipp was there. We had a bunch of great people showed out. Akbar, I loved hanging out with Akbar. I got to give Akbar credit. That day was wild. He left so late. He's coming from like middle of PA, and he gets there late. I'm like, Akbar, there is a 0% chance that you make it to my float amidst the millions of people around. And sure enough, strolling up comes Akbar, man. I was like, holy shit, he made it. Incredible. At Beezy for Cheesy. Gotta love it, man. Gotta freaking love it. We need a JAKIB tailgate at the season opener. That'd be pretty fun, 4 for 4. That'd be pretty fun. All right, everybody. I'm getting out of Dodge. Good show today. Great show today, actually. Good guest. 2 good guests. I thought Gill was good. I thought BLG was great. So that's good stuff there. And I appreciate everybody for being here, man. As you guys have been showing out, as always, at the start of camp here. It's good to see everybody back in here. Izzy Big, good to see you. Thanks for saying goodbye. Appreciate you, Izzy Beef. Appreciate you, Rich, Flex, Sig Lords in here, Jimbo. Dylan Busby, what's up, Dylan? Good to see Kimberly Sirico. What's up, Kimberly? Philly 444, Kevin Savard, Big Mike, not to be confused with Little Mike. Abe, what's up, Abe? Primo, Philly through Chicago. Chief Keese, what up, Chief? Not to be confused with Camel Keese. Where are you, Camel Keese? Show yours. There he is. So we got Chief Keese, all right, and Camel Keese. Camel Keese is riding the goofy camel in the profile picture. I'll never let him live that one down. All right. I do like that he got the flex, though, up there. He's flexing up there, which is cool. And then we got Chief Keese, not to be confused with Chief Keef. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. There's a tsunami. I saw that, man. Will that affect Cilio? I guess it could. He's over there on the left coast. Let me look up fuck, is Cilio going to be affected by that? I didn't even think about that. That's actually a good point. I know Hawaii's getting hit pretty hard. At least I saw that. Hopefully everything's good over there. Let me text them and make sure. Is this tsunami expected to impact your area? It's just sent Big Sills a text. I'll see if he's on his radio. He probably will be on the radio show. I don't think it came. Prince says if tsunami can't move Sills. No, he's Big Sills for a reason. Yo, Sig, I think we go Jalen Hurts this year. Sig says, Z, do you have any idea what the giveaway prerequisite will be for the season? Last year, Saquon 125 plus rushing. So, Sig, here's the thing this year, all right? And we didn't really talk about this at the beginning of last year. It kind of evolved into this. Here's the one thing that will be constant. I'm going to be doing giveaways a lot. I don't know about every day, but I'm going to be doing a lot of giveaways. So there's not a prerequisite that must be instated for giveaways to occur. All right. I've already talked to my guy who gets me on my jerseys. I'm going to be ordering a boatload of them. I'm probably going to spend a good $2,500 to $3,000 on jerseys this year to start the season for the first couple of weeks, and we'll give them away. And then I'm also going to add in a prerequisite like we had last year's sake. So last year we gave away a lot more jerseys than just the Saquon jerseys. And so I don't know what the prerequisite could be. Last year it was the Saquon 125. I don't know. Do we want to do that again? I feel like that's kind of lame to do again. We could do it again. But should we do I kind of like Jalen. Like Twiz, this is kind of a good one, but 300 is a little steep. I don't know if we can do 300. Abe, you're right. JAKIB family members are being slept on. I got to do something to change that. I got to do something. Flex, we'll switch it up. We'll switch it up. I think 300 is a little steep, Twiz. I think 300 is a little steep, dude. Like if we do 4,000 divided by 17 games, that'd be 235. So 300 is definitely too steep. What about 250? Is that too low? 230 is too low, Lucius. That 230 is not. I mean, I know I know if he did that every week, it would add up to 4,000. But yeah, you're right, Twiz. That's the point, right? 3 passing touchdowns. Rushing from Saquon and passing from Hurts. Well, the good news is I'm going to be giving away a lot more jerseys than just 17. Like if Jalen gets it every single week or Saquon gets it every single week, that'd be 17 jerseys. We're giving away 50 plus minimum. Man, I'd like to give away 100 jerseys this year. That would be the goal. 100 jerseys this year. Actually, what I'd really like to do would be 100 jerseys. That's almost 5 jerseys a week. That's over 5 jerseys a week. That's over 5 jerseys a week. That's a lot of jerseys. If I give away 100 jerseys, I need members to show out, man. I can't do that without getting a lot of members. So if you're not a member, please become a member if you want to be involved in the giveaways. If not, no worries. You don't have to. But Yeah, Valencia, I like the Jalen Carter jerseys, man. I think those are going to become more valuable. So 300 passing yards, we're getting 2 jerseys. So we'll do a bunch of giveaways. That's for sure. That's the one thing that's always true. All right. I need some people to get me some, I need some people to do I need some work done for JAKIB. Anybody out there got skills on the computer, editing skills? Anybody out there can help me with some stuff? I want to get some stuff ready. I got to change the way the clips are posted every day. I want to streamline that process a little bit more. I'd like to promote at the beginning of each clip instead of just going right into the clip like, welcome into JAKIB Sports. Everybody, thanks for being here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget our giveaways, stuff like that. I'd like to add in that and do that for the channel. That'd be pretty cool, But JAKIB's always been such a different style of content where there's just so much volume. Like, there's not a lot of YouTube channels that are making 6 hours of live content a day every single day. Like, it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, even other guys who cover the Eagles, and it's all good, but a video a day, a 20-minute video a day, 25-minute video a day. Like, it's a lot different, So in a way, it's a beautiful thing because we got so much content. But it's also tough because there's so much fucking content there, you get overwhelmed. And my specialty is not that stuff, man. It's just not. Like, as a business owner, I did this prompt. I do these prompts on AI. So I follow this thing on Twitter, and it gives you good prompts for AI. And what I did this week was excellent. Let me read it to you guys. Very time consuming, Daz. And when you're not that good at it, it's even more time consuming. It's not my natural thing I'm good at. I've forced myself to do it in some regard, but the prompt I asked ChatGPT recently, really good. So here's the prompt I used. Ask me 10 questions to identify my biggest weakness I am not aware of. After 10 questions, reveal it to me. Asking questions one by one. Please provide your reasoning and be brutally honest. So I ran through this exercise on ChatGPT. And I kept it business. I'm not talking about personal life. All right. But it like literally fucking nailed my weaknesses as a business owner. Nailed them. So it was pretty cool. But it forces me to think outside the box. How do I get bigger, grow, add more to the business, become a better company, become a better channel, become a better host, entrepreneur, viewer, business owner, everything. So I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get to it, I think the problem with the offseason is that it slows down so much that I lose that aggressive tendency to attack, because there's not as much money coming in. So we'll see. AI is unreal. I use it all the time, Des. I'm a big AI user. So no doubt. I will get back on it, Xander. I don't know what you mean, Prince. Or what do you mean, Prince? Member? You're already a member. Come on, for those who fell off the members, come on back. I think we still have 300. I want to say I have 300 right now. Let me go look. How many members do we got right now on JAKIB? Which shows you that we got a hell of a community, by the way. Yeah, 304 members right now on JAKIB. So pretty good, man. Pretty good. I think our legends are down to like, I don't know, 20 of you or 25 of you maybe. JAKIB family, I think there's probably 15 of you. Membership level, let's look at wow, there's a lot more filters in here. JAKIB Legends, we got 35 legend members. Pretty good, man. Pretty good. So, yeah, Daz, I looked into that. I got one dude, and I really didn't like him. So, but I it's all about vetting with them, Daz. You got to vet properly. So I'm kind of learning a little bit of my way about that, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, everybody. I love all you guys, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you. Fun show today, as always. Always fun to kick around the great content with the great people of JAKIB Nation. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here, for showing out, for showing up, for liking, sharing, subscribing, and just conversing, man. Conversing with us. We had the guy in here yesterday morning. I've manipulated you all. I've manipulated you all to watch the Eagles content that you like. Load of bullshit. All right. Load of bullshit. Love all you guys. Appreciate all you guys. Daz, hit me up if you can help me with that. All right. Daz, hit me up if you can help me with that. If not, all good. But I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button. See you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.